Okay, so when we talk about the spelling curriculum, this is going to be true for any curriculum that you use for spelling. The biggest mistake is going from one lesson to the next when your child is not ready. So honestly, you do not have to be driven by the lessons. You are in the driver's seat. Okay, so if you do lesson 10 and your child struggled with it and you go into the next week, don't go to lesson 11. Go with the speed that your child needs. Now that means that if you have a child that picks it up easy, you do not need to belabor and spend long periods of time reviewing and learning the same thing over and over and over, because that can also be just as frustrating. Okay, go with the speed that your child needs. Now, if they're struggling, you take extra time. If they're picking it up quick, you can go faster. That is the beauty of homeschooling. You can do what your child needs. Don't let the curriculum drive you. You use it as a tool. So when I look at the All About Spelling curriculum, they have 24 lessons. They call them steps. Step 1, step 2, all the way to 24. A traditional school week is 36 weeks. So these steps, these lessons are not meant to be done 1 week at a time. They're meant to be done as your child progresses developmentally and learns the concepts. Okay. So the other thing about it is that it uses a lot of review. So they'll teach something in lesson 1. When they move on to lesson 2, they teach something new while incorporating stuff from lesson 1. By the time you get to lesson 10 has stuff from lesson 1 all the way through to 9, along with what the new stuff is. Now, it doesn't give them a massive amount of information. It just lets them do the continual review to gain mastery of the concepts that you've taught them. This is different than a lot of spelling programs out there where they teach a list, you memorize it, you take the test, you never look back. And let me tell you why that does not work. Okay, I actually, when I did my master's degree, my final cornerstone project that I did was on spelling, because I was very discouraged with the whole take 10 words, memorize them, or 20 if they're older, memorize them, write them 3 times, take a test, never look back. When you get, a few months down the road, you test them on the words that they had in month 1, and I'm sorry, they didn't learn them. Okay, that is why there are so many children today that spell so terribly. And I've had even teachers, when they're writing on the board and spelling things wrong, and they just look at me and they say, oh, well, I didn't have spelling past 5th grade in public school, but that's okay because I have spell check on my phone. Well, that's true, but what happens when you're writing on a board or anywhere else? Don't just rely on spell check. So, but we want better for our children than just spelling through 5th grade and memorizing and never learning. One of the things I found when I did my master's, when I did that project, was that continual review, okay, the continual review of words, and not just isolated words. Here's the key. It was words used in context. That means they practice the word, they might use it in phrases, then they use them in sentences. So in All About Spelling, I love this. Every single thing. Now, the beginning, obviously, kindergartners are not writing sentences, but by the next level, which is level 2, they start having them write sentences. And from then on out, every single lesson they do, they're writing sentences, so that they're not just learning these words in isolation. And then they have to make the connection to, how do I actually use them in sentences? And that seems like it shouldn't be a big deal, but you would be shocked at how many students memorize words, but then when you ask them to write a sentence, totally spell it totally different. And I did this experiment over and over. I would give them a test on those individual words that they memorized. 90%, 95%, 100%. I was like, wow, they learned them. And then I gave them sentences. The very next day, I gave them sentences that use these words, but just in context. And I was shocked at how many times they got those words wrong. Why? Because there's a bridge that they need to connect between learning to spell the words and how to use them in sentences. Now, All About Spelling does this. Now, I'm going to say this not as a disclaimer, but just so you know. My company, Next Gen Homeschool Solutions, does not receive one dime from All About Reading or All About Spelling for promoting their projects or for promoting their programs. I am telling you this because I want you to have the best. Now, you don't have to have this one, but whatever spelling program you choose, incorporate this specific aspect. Not just the spelling of words, but all the time, incorporating the words learned into sentences, into review, and having the continual review so that 6 months later, the words that you learned a long time ago, you're still writing in sentences, you're still using them, so you're still gaining that mastery. And it takes review over a long period of time to get words from short-term memory. I learned them quick for a week. I took the test, now I'm done. That just went into short-term memory. It takes continual review to get those words from short-term memory into long-term memory. And that's what you're looking for if you want your children to be good spellers. So think about that. Think about practicing the words. Think about using them in context and how to bridge that for your children. And most importantly, actually just as important as in context, is having a lot of review.